Architects, pull up your Eames chair, put on those black spectacles, and pour yourself a piping hot cup of strong black coffee because we're about to delve into unfiltered conversations with architects from all over the world discussing all things health and wellness. So, if you're an architect that's been searching for more balance, more fulfillment, and more overall health and happiness, turn up your hearing aids just a notch because we've got the answers. I'm your host, Morgan 𝗖𝗟𝗟, a licensed architect, stress management consultant, and founder of The Healthy Architect. Grab your trace paper and let's dive in. Brittany Catania, welcome to the Healthy Architect podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So happy that you're here. For those of you in my audience that don't know Brittany, she is a mother of a beautiful, almost 3-year-old little boy. She's a wife, she's a licensed architect, and a client of mine. Brittany, did I miss anything?
No, you got it.
Okay, awesome. Brittany reached out to me. I don't know if you have done the calculation, Brittany, but in March of this year. And within 3 sessions of coaching with me, 3 sessions is all we had, and each session was under an hour. She received, this is mind blowing, a 38% salary increase. And she didn't stop there. She said 38% salary increase is not good enough. I am worth more than that. So she didn't stop there. She negotiated a 4-day work week. So on Fridays, she is off work. And today is a Friday, and we are filming this podcast on Friday. And Brittany, before we get into the podcast, I know I've told you this so many times, but I am so unbelievably proud of you. You are such a leader in this industry, whether you believe it or not. And I appreciate that you have been vulnerable and you are getting on this podcast to tell your stories to other females in the architecture industry that might not think it's possible to negotiate a salary increase, or that might not think it's possible to have work-life balance. And you are not only living and breathing example of that, but you are sharing your story with the rest of the architecture industry. So I just want to say thank you first and foremost.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with the coaching process.
So I reached out back in March, and at the time I was looking for a change in my career. And I had been working with a few recruiters just to see what was out there. I was working remotely for a firm in a different city, and I felt like I could be more efficient, more productive, a better architect at my job to be in person again. So I really wanted to work reduced hours, and I didn't know what that meant. And I found you on Instagram, and you had talked about working with coaching and working with other women who were looking to work reduced hours. That was something I didn't know other people were doing, especially in our industry. Pretty much since my son was born, I felt like working full time is just a lot. It's a lot to balance, the responsibilities of motherhood and work responsibilities. And I thought working a little bit less would add some more flexibility and breathing room in my schedule. Working with recruiters hadn't worked out at all. And they were male recruiters, didn't understand where I was coming from. And it wasn't until talking to you that you're also a mother and an architect. I felt like you were the first person that was like me. We were kind of in the same position, and you could relate to what I was looking for. And it kind of seemed like this crazy idea and vision that it was going to work out. I didn't know how. So that I had a lot of questions when I came to you and started talking to you about when to looking for a new job and also looking for reduced hours and how that would even work.
Yeah. So what was your biggest challenge, I think, through the coaching process? Like what did you think it would be and what did it turn out being?
I didn't have a lot of expectations really going into it. And I think right away you were asking me some very specific questions. And that really helped me get clear in my vision and what I was looking for and really pushed me to get very specific, which was helpful because I had no frame of reference, no one to bounce these ideas off of. So that really helped me to figure out when in the job interviewing process to ask for that, to go in asking for that versus asking about that later in the interview process. So that really helped.
What do you remember what some of the specific questions were that I asked you?
That is a good question. One of them was, "Is this a non-negotiable for you? Are you willing to move firms if your current firm will not negotiate with you?" And my answer was that I wanted to change jobs regardless, so it didn't matter. I would work full time. They were kind of two competing goals. So I really wanted to change jobs and I really wanted to work 32 hours a week. So at that time, I was like, I'm willing to do whatever, and I will change jobs. The remote work is, not ideal. It's not working out for me. So that's kind of where my head was at the time. You also asked, like, what's your preferred timeline? When do you want to start working reduced
Mhm.
hours? And I had a very long response for you because I was like, do I ask in the interview process or do I start a new job and then ask later? So you helped me get really clear about that. And I think over, even after the first coaching session, I had a much clearer roadmap for how to approach this process. And the first time we talked was actually days before I had an interview with a firm I was really excited about. We kind of landed on asking a question in the interview, and you encouraged me to go with my gut. And in that situation, in the interview, probably towards the end, after they gotten to know me more, asking this like magic question, I
It
feel like.
unlocked things, right?
Because yes, yes. And it was like the perfect, you gave me like the exact script. I mean, I made it my own when I actually said it, but you gave me a script that was about asking the question in a more soft approach, but had a personal touch of saying, I'm a mother of a 2-year-old, and I feel like working 4 days a week would make me a better architect, make me more productive and more efficient. Is this something you're willing to discuss in more detail? And I like practice that over and over again because I'm like, I have to say this in the interview. You hyped me up. I was hyping myself up because it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. I'm not, I would say I'm not the best interviewer and I'm more of an introvert. And so putting myself out there in the first place is very hard. But over time, and especially working in this industry, I've gotten more and more comfortable talking and speaking my ideas and sharing what I need to. And that's been huge, like very empowering for you to empower people to ask for what they want and what they need. And yeah, I was very nervous. I'd never done this before, but honestly, the two people I was interviewing with are both women and they are both mothers. And as soon as I said that, they were like, we are moms, we have kids, we totally understand why you're asking for this, so where you're coming from. So, I think it really helped that it landed with those people, specifically in the industry, because I feel like if I was talking to male leader, male boss, it probably wouldn't have been as well received. But they were very encouraging and they were very interested in hiring me at that point.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit, and you received an offer from this new firm. Do you remember the conversations we had after you received that offer? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So you encouraged me to negotiate a higher salary no matter what they offered. And I believe we did a salary calculator to figure out what the offer was compared to what the industry average is in our region. We use the AIA salary calculator, which is a great tool. And I suggested offering a little bit more, and you were like, no, double that, go more, go higher because you one deserve that. And it's closer to what that average salary came out to be. And that was really helpful to have real data to back that up. And I was very uncomfortable doing that. I've negotiated salaries before, but never used a data or any tools to do that, and it didn't go well in the past. So I was very nervous to do that, but you coached me through it. You told me exactly what to say, how to approach it in the email, and it was very nerve-wracking to wait almost 24 hours to get an answer back. But it definitely was uncomfortable, but I knew that's what I had to do because that's the only way you can get what you are worth, and your value is to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Absolutely, and you have to work through that uncomfort,
Mhm.
100%.
Yes.
So tell me what the end results were. After you, received the offer, you and I coached you on what we should do next, and I encouraged you to double whatever your thought was, and then tell me I received an email, and I literally, Brittany, I have
Uh,
to say it, I broke out in tears. Yeah, tell me what the results were.
well, they came back and they said, "We accept your offer. We accept the salary amount," and I was in shock. I did not
Yeah.
think that's how that would go. I mean, I was crying too. I think I sent you an email that had so many exclamation points of like, "This is amazing." Yeah, I was in shock and I couldn't believe it, but then I started feeling like I am worth it?
Mhm. Yes, you
So
are. Yes, you
yes,
are.
and it feels good to be paid like what I am worth, and I felt like more empowered and more, like, strong coming into that position because I'm like, "I'm ready to deliver, I'm ready to, like, do my best work possible because of this, because I'm getting paid what I'm worth." So, yeah, it was huge, and yeah, that was amazing.
And then on top of that, you got a 4-day work week, right?
Yes,
So you're off on Fridays.
yes,
So not only did your salary increase, but you have reduced hours.
yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it has been the most, like, life-changing part, honestly. It just gives more flexibility in our lives. I did have a certain level of flexibility with working remotely, not commuting, and that definitely was helpful in the period of time I was doing that when I had a newborn and the not commuting. But now, I'm in a better place where have like reliable childcare and we have
Mhm.
a schedule down with like pickups and drop offs. So I have a 15-minute commute. It's not anything crazy. So I feel like I'm in a better place to do that. But then having that day off really, like, lets us do it's like we do all the other activities that we can't fit in the weekend, like, we went to the zoo the first week because 'cause he's been asking to do that, and going to the zoo on a Friday is amazing because there's a lot less people, and it was just like, "This is so enjoyable," and we can really do whatever we want. Now we're, like, running some errands and going grocery shopping together, like, all of these things. I'm not rushing around in the morning, could stay in our PJs and play on the floor for a while.
That right there is why I continue doing what I'm doing, because of the impact that we have had not only on your salary and your hours, but that
Mhm.
doesn't only impact you. That impacts your architecture firm in a positive manner,
Yeah.
but that also
Mm.
impacts your family in a positive manner as well. I mean, that time that your little boy, your 3-year-old has with you, is it gonna impact
Yes.
the rest
Yeah.
of his life?
Yeah, and I feel a lot happier because that's something that I felt like I needed for a long time, and, like, I feel like it's tough because being in our industry and, you go to school for so long and you're, taking the licensing exams, like all of this time and effort that you're putting into getting to these professional goals, and then you become a mother. And it kind of, I think for anyone, it kind of like changes your identity, and you're kind of like, what do I do now? Are all the goals I had before professionally, is that still true? Is this still what I'm going after? Some things become not as important anymore, but I think it just reprioritizes things. And you're, I think for me too, it made me even more like focused and dedicated at work because I know I'm, there for a reason. I have this time to do that. And it took me a while to get to that point, honestly, because you're like so worried about your kid and what they're doing, how they're being taken care of. And it just takes time. For some women it might be really easy and they might really look forward to that time away. And I definitely feel that to a certain extent, but yeah, from the beginning, I was always like, this is a lot of time away from them. And I just wanted to spend like every minute with him. But I also really valued like all the work I put into my career. And it's still really important to me. Like, I'm now, after having him, I'm working in historic preservation. And I feel like the work I'm doing is a lot more impactful than kind of my previous, role in my previous career before I had him. So, yeah, I just feel, like, more balanced and more aligned to, what makes me the happiest.
Yeah. And you're an example that mothers in architecture can have that. They can be great mothers and
Mhm.
also be great architects who have work life balance. So, we've talked about the work life balance a little bit. Can we talk about your stress levels and financially how this process has impacted you as well?
Yes, financially, it has been about the same because with the reduced hours and the salary increase, there really hasn't been a change financially. And that was my goal from the beginning. I didn't want to make less than I was making working reduced hours. So, really, there's been zero stress, zero financial stress, and yeah, just less stress and like the work life balance. Like, I was saying with working remotely, I could, did I have to make food ahead of time and things like that? And now I'm having to do that, but it is making me a lot more organized, which is good. Yeah, just everything's like running smoother, I think.
Awesome. How do you think this process will impact your decisions moving forward in your career?
Mm, that's a very good question. I think I feel more empowered to have like a year-end review, ask for raises, something I've actually never asked for before. It was always like, this is what we could do. This is what we're giving you at the end of the year. So I feel much more confident to have those tougher conversations. And I will definitely, if I'm in another kind of crossroads in my career, like wanting to move forward and doing something different, which I'm not looking to do, but just, if something happens and I want to like move up or have a slightly different role or something like that, I definitely feel empowered to like have those conversations and use what we learned and also reach out for coaching again to help me through that. So, yeah, I definitely feel empowered to have those really tough conversations, and I feel more confident in doing that now.
Wonderful. A lot of people that have me as a coach, they and when I first started getting coached as well, I thought, "Oh, this is a one and done kind of thing." But
Mm,
I have a coach myself. I will have a coach for the rest of my life because I see the results you can get when you need a coach, when you're surrounded by
mhm,
individuals that can see it from a different perspective and have lived it before. So
mhm,
there are a million different types of coaches, but I always encourage my clients when you come to a road, whether you hire me or not, another road in your future of your career,
yeah,
always come back and reflect on it, right? I mean, again, we're in chapters. This is a chapter that you're
mhm,
in. And, 5 years from now, you could be in another chapter. Who knows,
mhm.
right? So, what
Yeah.
would you tell? um, individuals, female individuals in particular, in the architecture industry that, in their heads, they're saying they have the mindset of, I can't increase my salary because X, Y, and Z, or I can't have work life balance because X, Y, and Z, and I am stressed out because it's the architecture industry. What would you tell them?
I would say it doesn't hurt to ask, and I heard something that was like, you shouldn't be the one to tell you yourself no. Don't let you be the one to do that. Let someone else tell you no. But if you put these roadblocks in front of you and say you can't do it, you won't you won't do it. You won't get to that point. So I think asking and having the right way of asking too, and something I've learned from you too is have information and data and show and be able to show your value and why you're asking for that, because that matters to a firm and to leadership. Is what value are you adding? How are you going to be a better employee? How are you making them more money? How are you delivering better work to your clients? And I think that's really empowering, and I think people maybe have a harder time saying no if you have reasons and you have data or evidence to back up what you're asking for. And I also think in our industry and in general for women, I feel like men have no problem asking for these things. And, I've read statistics about how men apply for jobs that they're like 70% qualified for, and women apply when they're 100% qualified. It stops a lot of women from applying for those jobs. And I think we just can't be afraid to ask for more and to ask for what we want, because ultimately it's your happiness that's on the line and that's affected. And our industry is like primarily still run by men and is very male dominated. But I think it's good to find like those allies too that are in higher up positions, that you're asking for what you want is more well received, and we're not so constrained in what's always been done before. And when it's been mostly men working in the industry, and that for everyone, it's nice to have some flexibility, whether that's, some people work hybrid hours so that they can spend more time with their family and they're still working 40 hours a week, but that gives them a little bit more flexibility. And I think if you're not seeing it be done, like, be the example for other people that come after you too.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. And a lot of my new clients or my prospective clients that come on, they say, well, I'm being offered a position to be a partner or a principal, but the last principal, they didn't negotiate a higher salary increase. So I'm not going to
Mm.
negotiate a higher salary increase.
Mm.
Absolutely not. Just because it's been done in the past doesn't mean we should repeat that. In that case, in that scenario, and that's just one of the many examples, you've got to be the first. And that's scary, right?
Mhm.
Especially as
Mhm.
introverts, especially as a female. That is scary, but we have to
Yes.
work through that fear and we have to work through that discomfort so we can spearhead this industry. And I'm telling you, architects of the future, female architects of the future, are negotiating their salaries. They are getting work life balance and they are negotiating maternity leaves, all of these things. But we have to be the first. And we have to also put it in policy and teach the females below us as well, right? That are younger than us and
Mhm.
less experienced than us. So a lot of my, not with you in particular, but with a lot of my clients, if they negotiate maternity leave, I encourage them to put that into policy so the next female doesn't have to negotiate as much or as hard for it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of my perspective too was kind of changed by the last position I was in, because there were a lot of female architects, and it was a lot of people had families and it was very focused on that. And that was something I hadn't ever really seen before. And I knew, all of these people, and I took maternity leave during that time. And I knew all of these people have done this before. And I talked to them about it and asked what their experience was. And I think it's having those examples. And if those individuals are in your firm, I would say reach out to other people you know. If you know someone you went to college with that recently became a mom, ask them how they did it. What was their maternity leave like?
Yeah. Don't just accept what is in your firm currently. If I, at least for my example, if I would have accepted the maternity leave that they were going to give me, that would have burned me out and I would probably have left the industry altogether. So we have to advocate for what we need and the future generations. Talking about maternity leave specifically, 100% of the time that I've helped clients negotiate that, it's merely they have received what they have requested, and it's merely the lack of education from the principals or the owners of the firm. That's it.
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, I believe that.
Brittany, is there anything else that you'd like to tell my audience?
Well, I just thought of this, that the reason I found you on
Yeah.
Instagram was from Laurel, your friend, and,
Yeah.
she was I think she posted on Instagram. She's like a friend of a friend, and she said something on Instagram that, like, really caught my attention was that she worked part-time. And, like, that for me, I was like, "I don't know anyone in our industry that's working part-time." So I, like, DM'd her and asked her about that, and she was, like, very encouraging of me to, like, talk to, where I was and, like, ask for that, and that's when I connected with you and started seeing everything you were posting, so I just wanted to give her a shout out because she was a big inspiration for me too.
Yeah, Laurel's amazing. She's also been on the podcast. Her and I are great friends since
Yeah.
undergrad. We actually took a studio together in undergrad. Laurel's amazing. And that just goes to show you as well. Sometimes when we get in our bubbles, that is our network and our bubble, and that is all we know. Now, some females, their bubble is their architecture
Mhm,
firm, right? They don't know beyond that. But what I'm trying to expose here is that females all over the United States and beyond are finding positions, not only finding positions, creating positions
mhm,
that are reduced hours and higher salaries. They're
mhm.
creating that. So it is there. So if you are in architecture, you're not seeing it in your firm, you're not seeing it in your town, you're not seeing it in your city or your state, reach out because it's there. It can be created.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I
Thank you.
appreciate you more than you know. And thank you for everything that you've done for the industry.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
Architects, this podcast is the culmination of the most creative minds in the world. The planning and programming of this content is extensive, and I'm proud to be a small part of the change that's happening in our profession. If you want to be a part of this change, the very best thank you you can give the Healthy Architect is giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with a colleague. When you give us a 5-star review and you share this podcast, you are playing a role in changing our industry one architect at a time. Be happy, be healthy, and take action towards a more fulfilling career. See you next week on the Healthy Architect Podcast.